Kazuma Okamoto, who I feel like has become in some ways the most popular of these guys this offseason because every fan base says, okay, well, we can sign him. Like the Pirates, like 100% the Pirates could get Okamoto. That is in their bucket.
Mm-hmm.
So he's open to everybody. He can play first, he can play third, he's played some corner outfield, he's got pop, he's more consistent. He's every question you have about Murakami, Okamoto is like the inverse of that. And I feel like that is kind of driving the market where it's like, all right, the contact rates you're not as concerned about, the floor is higher. You're not as concerned about this floor dropping out from under. It's just, it's a very interesting how it's all developed, and he's not going to get paid over $100 million. So again, that opens it up to everybody.
Yeah, that's a funny part. And I think that's where it's become funny in terms of, oh, well, Murakami's too risky. Like I'd rather Okamoto might be the better player or whatever. I guess like you run a lot of simulations, like there's going to be a fair amount of outcomes because Murakami, like, again, I'll just keep settling on this. There's going to be a fair amount of outcomes where Okamoto is better than Matt Wallner. But the thing is, there's zero outcomes where Okamoto is as productive as a Kyle Schwarber. And it's a totally different skill set, right? He's more contact oriented. There is good raw power. Like he does hit the ball hard, but it's not like a sellout for crushing the ball in the air. Like it's not a high ground ball rate, but it's also not this like lofty swing. I think he's a great blend of hit and power that I think is going to make him, Okamoto come over to the stateside and be effective. And, he's patient. And there's a lot of things to like about the offensive profile that you just sleep soundly paying when you pay that guy. But all of a sudden, I think that market, like Yoshida got 90 M's, bro. Like I think all of a sudden Okamoto could get pushed up a little bit higher. And then it's like, okay, well, if we're talking about like a $40 million gap and one guy could be a superstar and the other guy, his ceiling is maybe, occasional all-star or whatever, then it becomes a conversation. If my job was on the line, I'm going Okamoto and I'm just playing it safe, obviously. But I can understand the two different, perspectives. I do like there's still risk though, right? Like I think now all of a sudden people are looking at him and treating him, Okamoto like he's this like foolproof bat. He's still making a big leap over. He's still really, I think, had stretches where he struggled against spin. Like it was 742 hit 224 against sliders. Like he hammered fastballs and handles velocity well when he saw it, which for what that's worth. But there's going to be other hurdles as well. So I really like him though. I think he's a really sound hitter, and I think he's going to make a relatively smooth transition and be a good signing. And to your point, like all of these teams should be able to be in on him at all different markets.
Just for people who aren't familiar with him, I just want to run through the resume real quick. So he had 6 straight seasons of 30 plus homers, and he won a couple Golden Glove awards over there. He led the league in home runs 3 times and led the league in RBIs 2 times. So there is run production. There's plenty of pop, not Murakami pop, but I mean, what you figure in the big leagues, he can still like 20 home runs isn't crazy at all, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, like it's always tough to know how the exit velocities are going to totally translate, but 49% hard hit rate, EV 90 of 107 miles per hour is great.
And I think for a lot of teams, you have the ability for one. I think it's also the glove is more of a sure thing where I think he's going to be a good third baseman, at least maybe not a great one, but like he's not going to hurt you at third. You can play him at first. Like I mentioned, he has played a little bit of outfield. So if you're looking at a guy that can you sign him and he can fit so many different places on your roster, again, that's what kind of opens things up. And he does, like you mentioned, he fits more into the bucket of Seiya Suzuki and Masataka Yoshida, where those guys, it was 5-year deals. It very much was Suzuki worked, so Yoshida got $5 million more. I do wonder if now Yoshida not panning out as much maybe hurts Okamoto a little bit. And that's where when I came to my contract prediction, I had him at 5 years, $80 million. So that's $16 million per, posting fee about $14 million. So ultimately you're talking about investment just shy of $100 million for the guy. But it's kind of similar to Imai, where you look at this free agent class, how many guys do we have once we drop below the stars that are legitimate just starters in Major League Baseball. There's not a lot. So I think this guy's going to be an everyday player. And in this market, there's not a lot of everyday players once you get past those top names.
And to your point, like, I think 20 homers is like very doable, but based on his career production and based on the EVs, if something clicks for him and, maybe even with the right situation, he unlocks a little bit more, finds something else. Like, there's raw power in there for 30. And so like, if he's doing that stateside, like that's a steal. So there still is some unique upside to it. And I agree with you. Like when you start looking at the position players, I'm trying to think of like the major leagues, like guys that are already in the bigs, who would I like rather have? I think what the tipping point is probably Naylor. Like you'd rather have Naylor at this point, just because you know what you're getting. But you could make a case if you're a gambling man, right? Like you're getting a little bit more positional value. Like if you can play an average third base, which it sounds like you can, Okamoto, like that's going to help offset the offensive gap a little bit. But I'd take the bird in hand with Naylor. But like, where do you draw the line from this free agent class of I'm going to take the chance on the guy, jumping from NPB to MLB and see what it looks like? I think I've at this stage, I'd rather roll the dice on Okamoto than Gino Suarez.
And you know what? That's exactly where he kind of fell on our rankings of the top free agents. We did have Gino a little bit ahead of him, and that's just paying respect to a near 50 home run season. We had Gino at 13. We had Gallen and then Imai right below him, and then we had Okamoto right there at number 16 on our list. Would have been 17 with Naylor and some of the guys that fell off, but the fact that you have 3 top 20 pretty comfortably free agents, certainly in what's remaining, definitely 3 top 20. You could even push the top 15 guys on the market, all coming over internationally. It's kind of a rarity.
I think from that perspective, as well as my German Shepherd comes and says hello. I'm trying to figure out what Gino gets. Like, I think Gino comes with inherent risk too. And so it's just, I feel I would feel better there. Where's your favorite team predictions?
Well, I will say, if anyone wants to hear more about what Gino gets, me and Jack did a free agent profile and prediction on him already that you can find on our YouTube channel. And there I ended up on 3 years 70, but I saw like Spot Track saying 2 years 30 is his market value. So like that's a tough one in itself, just trying to figure out what do you pay a guy based on what he just did. Where Okamoto, it's just the unknown helps him a little bit. The age helps him a little bit. Only going to be 30 this upcoming season. So yeah, the market's wide open. When it comes to landing spots, my prediction was the Mariners. I just think it's funny mentioning Gino right now. Like that would be the Gino replacement. I think it's more affordable. It's a longer term deal. You have, the Ichiro pass where, it gives them another Japanese star, but it also just gives them a guy that's kind of flexible on their roster. And I don't know, it made a lot of sense to me that Okamoto could end up with Seattle.
I like that fit. The prospect head in me is like, but Colt Emerson could get up there and hold down third, and then you move off with JP Crawford after the year, and then you slide over Emerson to short. But Emerson only played at 8 games in AAA. So I think if you're a team that's trying to win the World Series next year, which the Mariners clearly are, as they are in win-win now mode, may make sense to go with the vet and take your time with Emerson, who also, if JP's not performing, then Emerson's the first man up. And there's always situations where, you have a chance to plug in just baseball's number 5 prospect. I also go back to the Phillies for all the same reasons, right? Because if you could maybe even bring back Schwarber, you could trade Bohm, who's expensive, and then bring in Okamoto. But I do also look at them and say they have a prospect that I think could break in for them at the start of the season, Aiden Miller at third base, and be really, really solid for them. So it depends which way you want to go about it. But I think this is another player, though, because he could play third, he could play first. A lot of different teams, I think, would benefit from bringing him in. And I think there's a lot of different teams that he would be, an upgrade from their current situation. Third base is not the most loaded position in Major League Baseball right now, I would say.
No, it's not. I mean, even going back to the Mariners, like if everything breaks right and Crawford's having a good year and Emerson comes up, like you stick him in left field or right field, if anything, if you have, like, you just, his versatility kind of opens him up. And then the other landing spots I had for him was, along with the Phillies, with the Red Sox, which makes a natural fit, kind of hedge on Casas a little bit at first.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do with Bregman at third, you can just make him your third baseman. Then you still have like other options you can cycle in.
And
the
be
Padres,
cheaper than Bregman. It'd be cheaper than Bregman too.
A lot cheaper. The Padres, I don't know if they can get there financially, but if they could, absolutely perfect fit for them. The Mets make sense if they don't sign Peter. Even if they do, like that could be the second bat that they add. And technically, Okamoto can be their first baseman. Pete Alonso could be their DH. The Tigers were another one.
I was looking at the Tigers. They'd have to figure out what they do with Colt Keith, but I think they could get creative and figure that out.
And we mentioned the Pirates. Like there's really not. It's any team can get in. Like even your Marlins are looking to spend. Like
I was saying, like he's probably out of their price range. He's such a no brainer for them. Like such a no brainer for them. But yeah, there's no shot. You could pretty much make a case for almost every team. You get the D-backs. If I know they're a little bit up against it financially, but that could be a good fit. Like that's why I think his market's going to be great. Like I wonder. I think your estimate's pretty spot on, but I think the only thing working against you is that there might be so many in play for him that it might just get bid up a little bit, and he might get pushed up to the Yoshida range.
If it is kind of the past track record where Yoshida got 5 more than Seiya, we could be talking about him getting $100 million deal because Yoshida got 95. So it's not outside the realm possibility whatsoever. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to get north of 15 million per. And I think probably the ceiling is 20 million. Also, if it's a shorter deal, if it's a 3-year deal or something like that, then obviously the AV could skyrocket, but I think he gets the 5 because those two guys did get 5 years. And like I said, it could broach $100 million, which I would imagine there's never been 3 international free agents to get $100 million deals. Like I can't even think there's probably been a year where we've had 2 guys get $100 million. There's only been a few that have even gotten more than $100 million, right?
Yeah,
It might just be Yamamoto, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about it. So
I don't think so. It would be a really it's a really unique perspective because it's also a kind of a class where there's a lot of uncertainty still too. And we're still going to probably see historic numbers when you cumulatively put the group together. My last thing on this. So in a world where Jake Cronenworth's contract is not totally perceived to be underwater, like we're seeing the teams have some interest in potentially trading for what it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years at 12.25 a year. So what does that come out to quick math wise? That is like 65 years, 64, 65. I just find that funny. Like it's probably about that starting point, I would say then for him, where you probably bump up a little bit above that because of the ceiling. But I was thinking about that. I'm like, okay, well, this Cronenworth contract may be movable too. What would you rather have, Cronenworth or Okamoto?
Okamoto, I think for sure. I think it's the question with Cronenworth, like which team is gonna, because the AAV is not crazy. It's just 5 years.
It's the 5 years. And he's a little bit, I think a little bit older. Yeah, because he's already on the other side of 30. But it just makes it an interesting thought exercise there as well. He might be the guy I'm most excited to see where he goes, Okamoto, just because I think half the league is a fit.
Absolutely. So that is our free agent profile and prediction on Kazuma Okamoto.
And that'll do it for the Just Baseball show.
I was gonna say, why don't we end the episode here? I want to break down the NL East predictions, but we can just tell people that'll be a standalone video. Because I think that's going to be a fun one. And actually, one last thing, since we just kind of wrapped the Okamoto thing, since we mentioned Cronenworth, I just want to throw a crazy mock at you that we came up with editorially and just see what you think. What about a Barrios for Cronenworth trade?
Ooh. Hold on. Jose Barrios contract.
I want to say Barrios is 3 years, 67 million from looking at it yesterday. And like you mentioned, Cronenworth like 5. So the money is very similar. It's just more years for Cronenworth. But it kind of feels like the type of pitcher that Preller might be in on, where the cost of acquisition is that much. You can move Cronenworth to get Barrios in. The only thing that would concern me on the Padres side is I think Barrios after this year, he has like, I think it's 19 this upcoming season. And then I want to say it's 2 years.
24 and 24. Yeah.
So is it too expensive for the Padres in the future? But maybe Preller just doesn't care. And that's like a future problem to have.
Well,
but
and maybe they can, a lot of times with the when there's a player opt out or whatever, like they could say, hey, well, if he opts into that 2 years, 48 million remaining, it probably means he didn't pitch that well. So if he opts in, you tell the Blue Jays like, hey, you gotta kick in $10+ million or whatever it may be. And I think that could end up making a lot of sense. I think if the Blue Jays cover some of the back end liability there, maybe pay it down slightly, I think that could be a really fun fit. I like that.
And then Cronenworth on the Blue Jays, if they're not signing Bichette, kind of makes some sense to just fill in all over their infield, all over the diamond. Not a bad, if Cronenworth was on this market as a utility guy, he'd be the best utility man in free agency.
Oh, yeah.
Would he get 5 years? No, but I mean, for a team that's trying to contend, you could do a lot worse than Cronenworth as well.
I agree. I like that. So we got more stuff on the way, more workshop trades and stuff at justbaseball.com.
Yep. So we're going to do a standalone video after this where we're talking about the NL East, but there's going to be articles coming up over the next week. Every single division, one player that could be added to each team. It's going to be a top trade or a top signing that just makes for a more interesting division in the upcoming season.